We've got multiple dangerous rounds of Arctic air on the way, and it's going to impact parts of not just the northern U.S., but all the way down to the south and east. And on the leading edge of that, we've got winter storm concerns into parts of the south central. Plus, I'm tracking a nor'easter potential on the far end of that system, as well as down the line towards the end of this week. I've got all the details on cold, snow, and more across the country in this video. Let's get into it. Alright, we're starting off this video with your National Weather Service hazards map. As of your Sunday afternoon, we've got some snow squalls moving through parts of the northeast at this point. Still some lake effect snow wrapping around that last system. You can see wind advisories up there. All of that pretty much moving out soon, but we've got winter storm concerns, big winter storm warnings there into parts of Utah, as well as the mountains of Colorado as feet of snow come down there. And then we've got winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings stretching from eastern Texas and Oklahoma all the way through parts of Tennessee and southern Kentucky. Before we get into that breakdown, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on those notifications so you don't miss anything here on the channel. Now let's get into it here with your future radar. You can see as I'm filming this, we've got some snowfall over eastern Oklahoma, parts of northwest Arkansas, southern Missouri. I wasn't very optimistic about what the NAM model was showing, but it turns out northwestern Arkansas has gotten some decent accumulation, maybe 2 to 4 inches out of some of that snow. Notice we've got some freezing drizzle, even some light to moderate freezing rain coming down, which is essentially just there's warmer air in a pocket into the atmosphere that causes the snow that's falling down out of the clouds to melt to rain. And then on the ground surface contact where it is still freezing, we've got that, it freezes on that contact and can cause a glaze of ice. And that's why we're really concerned here at this point through Tyler, Longview there in Texas, Shreveport, Louisiana, far southwestern parts of Arkansas. These are some areas where we're going to really have to watch this freezing rain, how it adds up. We're also watching that snow through parts of Little Rock, Memphis, all the way over to southern Tennessee through Murfreesboro into Nashville during our late evening here as I'm filming this on your Sunday evening. As we go overnight Sunday evening into your MLK Day morning, into your Monday morning, we've got this freezing rain kind of stretching out. You can see how the freezing rain lingers while the snow pushes east, and it's all kind of along this boundary here as a little bit of almost a stationary front kind of sets on up. You can see we've got that snow moving through parts of eastern Tennessee and eastern Kentucky at this point, West Virginia, parts of the northern state of Virginia. We've got some at least light to moderate snow. A lot of the snow that falls out of the system will not be heavy, only on some southern pockets of it. But you can see here we go into the 7 a.m. time frame here on your Monday. Still sleet and freezing rain back to the south and west through Nashville, Knoxville, on down into parts of West Virginia, as well as Virginia itself. Still snowing at times. You can see how some of those bands of snow will be a little bit heavier here near maybe Richmond, all the way back down through Appalachia here into the midday time frame of your Monday. Notice we begin to see some of the warmer air pull up into upper levels of the atmosphere, and that's why we start to see some of the snow try to turn on over to freezing rain into parts of southern Tennessee as well. You can see that transition as the day goes on. Even in a place like Nashville, the tail end of your event might end off with a little bit of freezing rain just because of that warmer pocket aloft. And even Houston, through parts of central Louisiana, down to Jackson, Mississippi, even through the northern part of Mississippi itself, all those areas, picking up on maybe some sleet freezing rain at the tail end of this event. So really there's that, again, it's very cold at the surface no matter what with this system, but it's that warm air in the upper levels of the atmosphere that's really messing everything up with the freezing rain potential. And then also notice we're still monitoring some of that snowfall moving through parts of the mid-Atlantic and northeast. Yes, now it's looking like southern New England, maybe some light to moderate accumulation out of the system as well, as it turns into, somewhat of a nor'easter. Still as well into our early Tuesday morning, watching some of the icing going on back through Appalachia. Again, this is just to prove to you, in a place like Richmond, Washington, D.C., notice you start with that snow. That rain line continues pushing northward there, and you can see places like Roanoke, Richmond, really at risk of switching over from snow to rain, kind of through the evolution of that system. And then in places like New York, all the way on over to Boston, pretty much looking like maybe an all-snow event in there, especially if you're in Boston. Now, taking a look here at those snowfall totals using the National Weather Service through our Tuesday morning, look at those totals adding up through parts of southeastern Arkansas, far northern Mississippi and Alabama, really through a good swath of Tennessee, and then on up into Appalachia. That's where our heaviest totals are going to be. Anywhere you start to see some of those light purples show up, you see northwestern Mississippi through even just southeast of Nashville near the Knoxville, Tennessee area. Some of these spots it could push half a foot of snowfall. And of course, any flake of snow in the south gets everybody kind of distracted. So make sure you're being careful at the wheel if you have to drive out in this. And then you can see an inch or two of snow pushing on up through parts of the Washington, D.C. area. I think it could get close to 3 inches, maybe near Baltimore, in Philadelphia, through parts of New Jersey. You can see it's a very controlled snowfall. You don't see many higher totals overall with this model blend average. Maybe 2 to 4 inches in New York. That would be at the higher end, though. You can see that swath continuing on off towards the north and east. In a place like Boston and maybe near the coastline of Maine, that is where we could see some snowfall continue. We don't have the short-range guidance on this quite yet at its best, but maybe 2 to 4 inches of snow, I think, is actually a decent bet there into places like Boston, as well as Portland, Maine, and on off towards the northeast in that Maine coastline region. Of course, we're also concerned about the ice, and here's a look at those forecast ice accretion totals with the HRRR model. Some of these are very concerning, right on that Arklatex border through northern Louisiana, as well as into parts of, say, north-central Mississippi, just below the snowfall. Some of these spots are seeing in those darker pink shades. That's where we're looking at maybe a quarter to a half an inch of ice, and of course that causes slippery roadways. It can also cause branches and power line issues as well. But all the way back down to Houston, we could see at least a glaze of ice through parts of southern Texas. The same goes here into parts of northern Alabama, through northwest Georgia, far southeastern Tennessee, and into that Appalachian border there. This is just as we go through our Tuesday with the HRRR model. Again, maybe up to 1/10 of an inch of some ice, and again, that is enough to cause slippery roadways and cause some big problems there, even on up into parts of maybe just northwest, in those northwestern suburbs of Atlanta. All right, now the key messages with this winter storm: heavy snowfall impacting the Intermountain West, heavy snow tapering down along the west coast this morning, as I'm talking about this on your Sunday, that tapered off there. But now it's focusing over the Wasatch of Utah and the Colorado Rockies today, where continued significant impacts expected, with high avalanche danger as well, with some very strong winds causing those avalanche concerns over the Sierra Nevada through the northern to central Rockies. Travel in or near that avalanche terrain is not recommended, and of course, winter storm warnings and those totals for the snow and ice in the southern end of this system, in the south central U.S., those are just on the right side of your screen. Now, the latest wind chill projections here, we've got the Arctic blast on the way. Monday morning, your MLK day in the morning, look at this, -15 to -30, even -40 over that entire region I just circled right there. Coming off Lake Erie, Lake Ontario as well, still very cold in that region. 5 to 15 for some wind chills in North Texas in the morning, and it's not going to warm up much in the afternoon. Wind chills still near -20 over most of the north central United States. If you have to go outside, again, I've been stressing this, bundle up, but if you can just stay inside, and remember to keep those pipes dripping, by the way, if you can just stay inside during this with that jet stream like that, you just need to be inside, and you just maintain that indoor state if possible. Here we go into Wednesday morning. You can see very cold still over a northern part of the U.S., especially in the Great Lakes, where -15 to -30 degree wind chills will be possible, but cold all the way down below freezing pretty much in that line I just drew, even parts of north central Florida below that freezing mark on your Wednesday morning of this week. We continue to see that first cold blast retreat a little bit, but we're not done, because the secondary Arctic blast is going to be gathering itself together back on over here over the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, as well as parts of Michigan and the upper peninsula of Michigan. And then that's going to really begin to make its way on off towards the south as we head into our Friday. So here we go, Friday morning, look at that. And another bout of some very cold wind chills over the north central. This is as we go early Saturday morning. This is the 20th of January for us. -20 to -30, even near -40 possible in that region I just circled. You can see especially near Iowa being a bullseye for that cold air. That's going to sink down through the Ohio Valley. And this Arctic blast is actually a little bit more intense if you're in the southeast, just in comparison to average. And it's also going to hit parts of the northeast pretty hard with some very cold, especially wind chills in the interior part of the northeast. As we head towards, say, the 22nd or 23rd, though, we really do begin to see kind of this colder air retreat a little bit, and I do think we'll begin to see warmer air try to kind of move in from the west, and you can already see that on the 6 to 10-day temperature outlook with warmer than average air there over the western United States at that point, but notice still we're looking to be well below average here in the southeast through this point. Now, what this cold air does, it makes you concerned, or at least hopeful, I guess I should say, right, about the potential for snowstorms or ice storms through the east. But this is also very dry air. So again, there's this first winter storm. You can see it kind of making its way on up through the north and east. The Euro painting a very similar picture to the HRRR with it, just some light snowfall through parts of the northeastern United States. Not necessarily a nor'easter, although it's moderately shaping up like one, just not a huge, gangbusters system over that region. You can see it heads on off towards the northeast. The wind flow will be correct for it to be a quote-unquote nor'easter. It's just not a very heavy event. High pressure, that cold Arctic high moves in behind it. So again, that's filled with very dry air. But we'll have to watch these systems coming out of the mountain west. Some very heavy rain and snow over parts of the Pacific Northwest as we go Wednesday and into our Thursday. You can see that moves through the Rockies, out over the plains. A little piece of that could merge with some energy coming out of the Gulf. Could this make for another little winter storm here over the south? I wouldn't expect as much ice or snow out of that, but certainly could, at least over through parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. really looks like this will begin to get its act together potentially. Again, this is just a model scenario as we go through the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast Thursday and into our Friday. This one may be at least a little bit more promising for some decent snowfall through parts of southern New England and even into parts of the interior Northeast. So that's something to keep in mind if you live all the way along this Mid-Atlantic corridor, as well as on into southern New England and along that I-95 interstate there. But I can tell you this, it does look like your snow chances are getting a little bit better with this colder air and Arctic highs in place, if you can get a system there in the Northeast. Thanks so much for watching. Hit like, subscribe, and if you have any comments, leave them below. That's it for this video.